Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, our topic today is erase or clone, what's the difference? So I'm going to show you a couple scenarios of when you'd want to use the erase tool versus when you'd want to use the clone tool. All right, let's get started. And so here I have this lovely image of a house that Andrew, my co-host, gave us. Now, at first, I thought these were dust bunnies up around here, but what they really are, believe it or not, is gnats flying around. So what we need to do is get rid of these dots right here. Well, this is a perfect job for the erase tool. So click on the Edit tab, and at the very, very top under the Essentials, we'll click on Erase. Now, at this point, I'll use the left or right bracket keys to make the brush size larger or smaller. And then what I'm going to do is just go over each of these dots. Now, typically, if these were all near each other, I would only do parts of them. In other words, like right now I did all of those dots, but if they were really close together, I would do sections of them at a time. And the reason for that is right now we selected all of these areas we want to erase, and once I hit erase, Luminar is going to analyze all the pixels around those areas and the entire scene, and it's going to do its best to copy it to make it look flawless. All right. So if you have a lot of distractions, look how great that came out. If you have a lot of distractions, it's best to do pieces at a time. All right. So now let's convert over here. I'll make this a little more difficult. So that was an easy one because, I mean, look around the clouds or around the sky, everything was blue. Here, let's say that this blade of grass right here, this weed, I'm going to hide weed for a minute. This weed is distracting. I'm going to come in and I want to paint over that. So we want to erase that. Now notice there's a little weed right here connecting to it. I'm going to make the brush size smaller. And let's get rid of that. All right. Now, if, like in the case right here, I went over just a little bit, I can come over and select deselect. Now, when I click deselect, I can come in here and actually erase the area I don't want to erase. All right. Now, once I have it set, then I'm going to click on Erase. And in a moment, Luminar is going to do its magic, and it's going to remove that. And look at that. It went around and tried to duplicate or try to figure out what would look good in that particular scene. I mean, how cool is that? Here's before, and here's after. All right. So this is a great time to use Erase. Now, let's pick an image for clone. Well, here we are with a clone tool, and I joke about this. He's a rocker. He looks all cool, but what he forgot is part of his wardrobe has a little malfunction. So let's fix this. Now, here, I can't use the erase because there's nothing to, I mean, what am I erasing? You know, there's nothing to piece it together. So again, click on Edit, and let's come over here to the clone tool. Now with the clone tool, I'm going to start out by clicking a source. So I want to start, let's say up here, and I want to sample this area. Now that I have that area selected, let's make the brush size a little bit smaller. Now what I'm going to do is come down here, and I want to paint starting with that source. So I'm going to come in here and brush over. Great. Now they did a very good job. Look at this. We'll do before and after. All right. It looks good, but we can make it look better. All right. So we brought it down, and let's take some of, like this area right here. Let's take some of this texture that we're seeing up here and apply it down here. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to bring that whole section down. So instead, let's take the opacity and bring that way down. I'm pressing on the Alt or the Option key to reselect my source. I want this right here. Now I'm going to come down and just lightly brush. That's good. So now all I did was took a little bit of that texture and brought it down. All right. Now, if I don't like the colors right here aren't matching the way I want it to, let's come over here and select, maybe this is a source, and brush it down. There we go. And when we're done, just click on clone again. So here it is, before, after. All right. So there it is. So again, you'll use the erase tool when there are areas around the erase tool that you can easily blend and match in. The clone tool is when you have to get a little more control over the area and you get to pick which areas you want to copy from and paste in. All right. So let's check out some of these areas here, or some of the questions coming in. Let's see. Greetings. Let's see again, Pam. Hello from Canada. Richie Acevedo. Glad you could join us. And we're in from Australia. All right, Gary, who always asks the right questions. What would happen if you used erase on the shirt? Okay, like let's say clone or erase, let's say the button, Gary. Let's try that. So Gary's asking, what would happen if we did use erase? So let's say in this area here, we want to get rid of this shirt, this button. Here's erase. I'm going to paint over the button. And that area right there. So, and let's try that. Not bad. All right, so Gary, that's not that bad. But again, you wouldn't want to remove a button like that. So let's Control Z. So I'm going to undo it. Hello, Harry. All right, so instead, I'm going to deselect that erase, or clear the erase. There it is. And let's come back down here to the clone. So let's say, let's just say down here we want to put a button. All right. So let's do the clone again. And we're going to use this as the sample source. And then come down here. Now I'm using this time. Oh, you know what? Let's change that opacity to 100. And I'm going to click on Control Z to remove what we just did. One more time, let's sample it. Alter Option. And I'm using the mouse, and I did one click, and then there's the button. And notice what I did there was I hit the mouse button a couple clicks, and it actually brought it in. So there's where we have it, Gary, for the clone. If I wanted to clone an extra button in, that's one way of doing it. But for the erase, and let me start from the very beginning. Adjustment, revert to original. So Gary was asking what would happen if here we were to do erase. The results are not going to look good. I mean, I'm predicting. So I could be wrong, so let's see. If I were to come in and select this area right here to erase. All right, Gary, let's see what happens. Erase. Not bad, not great, but not bad. So my prediction would have been a lot worse, but it actually did a decent job. Not something I'd rather do the clone here, or like Gary, if you wanted to, like if you were adamant about using the erase tool here, then I would use the clone tool like we did earlier, and I would take the clone tool and move the opacity down. Click, let's say, up here. and then just brush maybe over the area lightly. I'm trying to grab a color. Here we go. And maybe just come over the color just a little bit, just to try to make it blend in. But again, it lacks the lines, like you just said, Pat. The lines are not there. So again, that's something. Like I said, I would prefer to use. Yeah, I would prefer to use the clone tool in that case. Yeah, I would prefer to use the clone tool. I think it just looks a little neater with this line coming down. One more time, we'll come in. Select, pick that spot, and then just bring it down. Oh, here we go again. Control Z, take that to 100%, and bring it down. Yep. And then, of course, fix up a little bit of this area here. Yeah, fix up a little bit of that area right there, and we're good to go. All right? So, there we have it. So that's how you would use the clone tool or the erase tool inside Luminar AI. Now, keep in mind, it does a phenomenal job, like on the cloud, on the sky, in an extremely complicated area to where, if, let's say I want to remove the entire background of the rocker, let's say. Well, that's when a graphics program comes into play, Photoshop or GIMP, to where you could trace around it, and it's a very complicated mask. You'd have to do it. So learn to use the right tools for the right jobs. All right? So let's hope there's other questions. Let me pull this up in here again. Yep, Pat, I agree. You didn't have the line itself. Now, keep in mind, because we try to answer as many questions as we can live. So if you have questions on this, or since the new Luminar Update 3 came out, if you have questions on Update 3 and stuff like that, don't be afraid to ask those at the end of this tip, because then from there we can answer other questions for you. Now, the other part is, if you are a Luminar AI owner, you should hop into insiders.skylum.com. Insiders.skylum.com. And let me see if I can pull it up for you real quick. Oh, and actually, you know what? I just logged out of it. So Insiders, let me see if I remember my password, being under pressure here. One moment. Let me pull it up. Yep, here it is, Vanelli. And let me share my screen. All right. So here we are with LuminarInsiders.com. What's really good about this is visualize this is like Facebook, but with like-minded people, no political garbage, no hate speech and stuff. It's fun. It's exciting. You get to join different events. Like, for example, this coffee break is held at 1 p.m. every day. This coffee break is a Zoom event. So it's a live questions and answers after we're done with the episode. So again, insiders.skylum.com. And we have different groups you can join in. All of it's free. There's a sports photography group, black and white group, travel, macro, wildlife. Look at all these different groups you can join in. And this will be a great opportunity for you to ask a bunch of questions. Like currently, right now, I'm in the middle of looking for a new camera. That's a great place for me to throw out questions and say, who are the Fuji users? Who are the Nikon users? Who are the Canon users? Let me know what you feel, why you feel the camera you have right now, what inspires you to purchase that particular brand. And then I can make my decision on which cameras I want to go with. So it's a great place for you to share information with like-minded people. All right? So, one moment. Good. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. And again, if you have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we'll try to get to them as soon as we can. Well, I'm Vanelli. Thanks for joining us. And I'll see you at the next coffee break.